Saudi Arabia and Iran have for some time been carrying a series of movements to enforce the ties between them. Discussions as pertaining to their common interests have also been held to foster their agendas. On Thursday, Major General Mohammad Hossein Bagheri, the Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, and Saudi Arabia's Defense Minister Khalid bin Salman Al Saud spoke over the phone about a variety of subjects. General Bagheri stated that the Iranian armed forces are ready to deepen their military cooperation with Saudi Arabia. Furthermore, he complimented Riyadh for calling an exceptional meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, to address the Gaza conflict and to further the development of cordial relations between Tehran and Riyadh. For his part, the Saudi Minister of Defense commended the initiatives aimed at fortifying military relations between the two nations. But why are Iran and Saudi Arabia discussing military cooperation? Hello, and welcome to Hypeno, where we bring you the latest news briefings and analysis on breaking news from geopolitics to the finance markets in order to keep you informed. This hour in focus, we are exploring why Saudi Arabia and Iran have for some time been carrying a series of movements to enforce the ties between each other. But before we proceed, please kindly like and subscribe to this channel by clicking the bell notification feature below to help YouTube learn of your preferences and to receive notifications each time new videos are uploaded on this channel. Let's get started. The sides also discussed the pressing issues that the Muslim world is now experiencing. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi arrived in the capital of Saudi Arabia on November 1st, ahead of a summit of Arab and Muslim leaders concerning Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip. This was the first trip to Saudi Arabia by an Iranian president since Tehran and Riyadh resumed diplomatic ties in March of last year, according to an arrangement mediated by China. Furthermore, Raisi's visit was the first one to Saudi Arabia by an Iranian president in 11 years. Before departing Tehran for Riyadh, President Raisi addressed reporters, stating that the OIC conference ought to have produced measures regarding Gaza rather than serving as a forum for stance declarations. According to the Iranian presidency's official website, Raisi asked on the OIC to hold an emergency meeting and to reach a fully operational and executive decision about Gaza that would match the expectations of all people worldwide, especially the Islamic Ummah. In essence, the main goal of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation's founding was to achieve the rights of the Palestinian people, so he stated, "This platform is not one for mere speech and announcement of positions, but must be one for action to quickly stop the bombings, lift the blockade of Gaza, and open the way to help the oppressed and authoritative people of this region." According to President Raisi, he traveled to Saudi Arabia primarily to take part in the OIC Emergency Conference over the Palestinian issue. The issue of Palestine is the main issue of the Islamic Ummah and the Muslims of the world, but is also the issue of humanity and all the people of understanding and thinking all over the world who have taken to the streets in millions these days, and they shout about the oppression of the Zionist regime and the support of the Americans for this genocide. He said, referring to the efforts of the Islamic Republic of Iran to hold this meeting immediately since the beginning of the Zionist regime's invasion of Gaza. President Raisi stated that the crimes committed by the Zionist regime in Gaza today are a clear example of war crimes and crimes against humanity, adding, "The Americans claim in their statements and messages that they are not looking to expand the domain of the war, while this claim is not compatible with their actions at all, because the fuel of the Zionist war machine is provided by the Americans." He described the U.S. efforts to obstruct a ceasefire in Gaza at various meetings, including at the UN Security Council, as examples of the Americans lying about recent events. The Americans claim in their statements and messages that they are not looking to expand the domain of the war, while this claim is not compatible with their actions at all, because the fuel of the Zionist war machine is provided by the Americans. President Raisi said, citing the crimes committed by the Zionist regime in Gaza as a glaring example of war crimes and crimes against humanity. At a number of gatherings, including the UN Security Council, Netanyahu characterized American attempts to thwart a truce in Gaza as instances of their fabrication of current events. After lengthy negotiations facilitated by China, Iran, and Saudi Arabia agreed on March 10 to restore diplomatic relations and reopen embassies and posts after a 7-year break. Respecting one another's national sovereignty and refraining from interfering in one another's domestic affairs are two things that the two dominant regional powers have stressed. The commander of the Iranian Navy, Rear Admiral Shahram Irani, said in June that Iran and several other neighboring countries will be joining a new naval alliance in the northern Indian Ocean. Subsequently, in August, military attaches from the two nations' defense ministries agreed to switch places. Raisi's travel to the Gulf state would mark her first since the two nations decided to re-establish diplomatic ties following a 7-year break, a decision that was announced in March and mediated by China. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, a 57-nation union of mostly Muslim nations with its headquarters located in the Saudi seaside city of Jeddah, is organizing the summit. It is scheduled to happen the day after the leaders of the Arab League met in an emergency over the conflict in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. President Raisi will attend the summit of the OIC in Riyadh. The individual with knowledge of the meeting's arrangements told AFP, requesting anonymity since they were not permitted to divulge the details to the press. The OIC has consistently denounced attacks on civilians in Gaza, where Israel is attempting to destroy Hamas in retaliation for the militant group's October 7 offensive, which resulted in more than 1,400 deaths, primarily of civilians, and saw 240 people taken hostage, according to Israeli officials. Over 10,000 people have died in Gaza, including over 4,000 children, according to the health ministry headed by Hamas, which released the statement on Monday following nearly a month of non-stop Israeli shelling. On October 12, Raisi and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia, spoke over the phone for the first time. According to Iranian state news agency IRNA, they talked about the need to end war crimes against Palestine and expressed solidarity for the Palestinian cause. Although neither nation recognizes Israel, Saudi Arabia participated in negotiations facilitated by the US over potential normalization prior to the start of the conflict. Iran has traditionally supported Hamas militarily and financially. Saudi authorities are extremely concerned that the conflict would intensify and jeopardize Prince Mohammed's ambitious Vision 2030 reform plan, which aims to wean the world's largest crude oil exporter off fossil fuels. Thanks for sticking around.